Well, happy New Year's, all you beautiful Texans. Welcome back to the James Show. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Yeah, we're live today. I know it's sort of a holiday. I'll be here live tomorrow, too. How you doing out there? First off, the question of the day is going to be, where's the party tonight? I mean, you don't have to invite me or anything. I'm already going to be doing some things at home with family and Miss Parker.
Hi, Miss Parker.
But I like to hear what everyone else is doing. Also like to hear about you people who gripe. I would never go down to Sundance Square on New Year's Eve. What happens if you're in the middle of all that? You have to go to the bathroom. But I would like to hear your New Year's Eve plans if you want to share them with the rest of us. 800-288-9227. Because on a semi-holiday like this, there's only like 11 people listening. So it doesn't even matter if my first guest, Jeremy Rosenthal, says anything embarrassing, which he often does.
James, man, so do you not ever take vacation? I mean, I feel like you and I are the only ones who never take vacation.
No, I don't. Well, I jealously guard this seat. It took me so long, and I had to work so hard and kill so many people to get here, do so many terrible, dirty deeds to get here that I don't want anybody else sitting in my seat, Jeremy. I've only been here a year, and I don't want you falling in love with anyone else while I'm gone.
Smart man.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, look, you're my legal guy. You're a lawyer, TexasDefenseFirm.com. What do you think was the biggest Supreme Court decision of 2024?
The immunity opinion for sure. That was the biggest. That's the biggest separation of powers opinion that we've seen since Marbury versus Madison. It defines what the president can and can't do, what he can and can't lose sleep over.
But it didn't change anything. It just reaffirmed the existing paradigm, right?
Did it? I mean, look, we're
I'm asking.
Well, no. You raise a wonderful question, James, and I will answer it like this, okay? And we've talked about it exactly in these terms before. The Constitution at 14-point font with pictures is 12 pages, 15 pages, right? The transportation code is 1,028 pages, and it tells you precisely how many inches above the ground your fog lights have to be. The point is that the Constitution is a very broad document, and it requires a lot of interpretation. We don't know these things we don't know what the courts think about these things unless or until the courts adjudicate them. And when we talk about the power to pardon, we don't know if a pardon's going to be any good unless or until somebody actually says, well, wait a minute here, we're going to appeal this. We don't think it works that way. So with the immunity decision, we got a lot of very bright lines that we never really had before. So I'm going with that one for the biggest opinion of the year.
What was the second biggest one?
Oh, man, you had to do that to me. Okay. After that, there was a big decision, and it's gonna stump me on the name. There's another big opinion that the lawyers kind of nerd out on, which it divests regulatory agencies of the ability.
Oh, they repealed Chevron deference.
Yeah, so there you go. See, man, you're more of a lawyer than I am. See, that's why I like you. You never take vacation. You're working. That one, I think, I don't think that's a really sexy opinion. I don't think that's on the top of a lot of people's lists. But I think that fundamentally, day to day, for Americans, for working people, I think that's going to have a pretty big impact.
Let me ask you about my fantasy situation here that I've dreamed about for decades, and that's the United States merging with Canada.
Okay.
What does the Constitution say about that? Because we acquired a lot of land since the Constitution was written, but not another place that already had like a functioning government / Constitution, and we didn't swallow other countries whole like that. Is there any legal issues with that?
Oh, I'm sure there probably are. I don't know that our Constitution would necessarily address it or not. I don't know that our Constitution has any prohibition about the United States going and acquiring different lands, purchasing different lands. The issue is going to be, and I'm talking, theoretically here. I mean, if that's the case, then you're talking about Canadians having constitutional rights under our Constitution. Certainly there's international issues about, what's Canadian law say, right? And what do we do about that? I mean, we're going to get a lot of maple syrup in the deal if that's kind of what you're going for, and some good hockey. So,
Well,
yeah, thank you.
we already
Thank
get to hockey. We're in the same league. I mean, we share leagues with them in baseball and basketball and hockey, and they kind of play like our version of football, and they're the only other people that do that. So I've always felt like Canada's died America, and it's just a matter of time. And it's kind of been a concern of mine because we've gone 65 years without adding a state in the United States, and that's the longest we've gone in American history. That's not an American thing to do, is to stop growing and stop adding territory. So I thought this was, like the next obvious step. Just start at maybe British Columbia or the Northwest Territories and work your way east.
Man, I've heard that. I think it's Saskatchewan, Calgary. From what I've heard, you can. Daryl Razor Ray, voice of the Dallas Stars, says you can watch your dog run away for 3 days, right? And the only thing knocking down the freezing cold wind is the barbed wire. So that's kind of Texas. I mean, we could do that.
Well, Smacky on YouTube says absorbing Canada would give 10 times the senators. Yeah. To places that would vote like California.
Well, okay. You know what? See, that's why the United States doesn't add on states. And candidly, I think that's why we haven't added Puerto Rico as a state. And now I don't know what they think. I mean, I don't know if they want statehood or not. I've not stuck my finger into the wind down there. But yes, any new state that you bring in is going to get 2 senators. And I don't know the population of Canada. My guess is you're adding 10, 15, 20 seats to Congress. So I mean, folks they're going to have constitutional rights. I mean, that's if there's a legal implication, it's that.
All right. One more question for Jeremy Rosenthal, TexasDefenseFirm.com. We have credit card defaults in the United States at the highest level in 14 years. Declaring bankruptcy, that's kind of a legal question. Your thoughts?
Mm-hmm. I mean, look, this is from an economic standpoint, this is not so much legal, and I guess it is kind of legal in a way. It's really the bank is going to be the one, pardon the pun, holding the bag here. I mean, if the bank is going to underwrite bad loans, so to speak, if they're going to be authorizing Johnny Lunchpail, Susie Main Street to go and run up their credit card tabs and not get the money back, then what you have is a bank that's got some problems. And you don't know, maybe those, and I don't know that those banks are, I don't know that Capital One or any of the major credit card companies, I don't know that they're in a position to default, but that's who's holding the bag. If somebody's going to go and declare bankruptcy, I mean, most of your credit card debtors, if they are going to go into bankruptcy, it puts what's called an automatic stay on there. It is you're committing a federal offense by trying to collect against somebody who declares bankruptcy. So it's a black hole, if you will, of economics. I mean, the money just is down the drain, and nobody gets paid. And look, and I'll tell you this much: being a lawyer, bankruptcy is critical to our economy. People have to be able to get a fresh start, right? We can't have people in perpetual generational debt. You've got to have the people who are out there trying to start businesses, trying to go out and do things. So bankruptcy is pretty critical to our infrastructure.
Bankruptcy actually mentioned in the Constitution.
Is it? See, man, James, you're ahead of me, man. See, I
Hey,
I'm a big Fourth Amendment guy. I'm a criminal lawyer, so that's my bread and butter.
Jeremy Rosenthal, I want you to get to work on. We got to update the law. It kind of ticks me off that we can only buy fireworks twice a year. I can buy them like today and right before the 4th of July. That seems like such a dumb law. Can we get the ball rolling on getting that changed?
Yeah, you know what? You and me, let's write our Congress. I'm gonna do it right now.
Thank you very much. Yes, my right to blow stuff up shouldn't be infrequent. It's not the McRib, damn it. It needs to be universal, ubiquitous, 365 days a year. Thank you very much. This is Jeremy Rosenthal, TexasDefenseFirm.com. Thank you, sir. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Happy New Year. Bye-bye.
All right, couple questions. Where's the party tonight? Where are you going? What you doing for New Year's Eve? What do you think about the drone show being canceled over Reunion Tower? Are you going to Sundance Square? Are you going to one of these huge events? And does it make you mad? Don't you think we should be able to buy fireworks year-round instead of just now and 4th of July? So lots to talk about here on The James Show. I'm James Parker. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome to the James Show. Snooze Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Happy New Year's Eve, actually. Isn't that awesome? We made it through the whole year. I didn't get fired for the whole year. Isn't that amazing? And look, I want to know what you're doing tonight. I'm going to be at the house with some family, and we're having some people over. And so I'll be entertaining some guests. So I'm not going to go out and do anything fun. I'm not going to be in the big crowd at Sundance Square. I'm not going to be in downtown Dallas. I'm not going to be in any of these other big events. I love going to them somewhat. I do not understand the people that go to Times Square in New York. And it looks like
New York City.
when you're a kid that would be really fun. But by the time like you're an adult and you've been to a couple music festivals and you've been in large crowds, you're like, how do those people go to the bathroom? You have, what is that, like 20,000 people just jammed up and down Times Square? I don't know how many people, but you're shoulder to shoulder. 1 million people? Okay, well, that's coming from the WBAP newsroom. Newsflash, Kimberly James says it's 1 million. I believe her. She double checked it. She has her glasses on. She knows. So I always think for however many toilets are there, there's far too many bladders within the same. There's not enough toilets to go around. So the line says, you just wear a diaper? So that seems terrible. But I find this year, and let me read this. This comes from Dixie on Facebook. She says, it is a sign of old age when your consideration of attending a big event like New Year's Eve or the inauguration involves whether you can be locked inside a secure perimeter for hours and deal with the porta pot options. Exactly. And that's not a sign of old age. That's a sign of maturity. See how that works? Maturity. Yes. We're not like those immature kids that are stuck having to go into porta potties and secure perimeter situations. But what a letdown that the drone show got canceled. That was so cool last year. And, it only happens a few blocks from where we're broadcasting from now. They had the drones and they were, each drone has a light on it. And they make these different shapes and different colors. And then they can actually like animate it. So it sort of does the same effect of a fireworks show where you're looking up at the sky and going, ooh, look at the pretty lights. But of course, there's far more control and it can do way more cooler stuff. And like the one that sticks out in my head is at the very end, when you're doing your countdown, the drone's spelled out 2, 0, 2, 3. And then when it clocked over, the drones that were making the 3 like scrambled and rearranged themselves and reconstituted into a 4. And I was like, oh man, is this what we do now for New Year's Eve? This is cool. Man, the future's cool. These flying drones. Not as cool now. There was a holiday show that happened in Orlando. Same company. It's a Texas company. They actually had an accident where some drones fell out of the sky. I don't know why. I even efforted to look it up. But, malfunction isn't an explanation. I mean, how did malfunction? What would happen? The problem is one of them hit a 7-year-old boy in the chest on the way down. And these drones aren't very big and they aren't very heavy. But when they fall from 200 feet in the sky, hitting a 7-year-old boy in the chest was almost fatal. He had to have like emergency surgery. He almost died or whatever. And so, look, that was just like a little over a week ago. So out of an abundance of caution, they've canceled the drone show here. But also the same company was supposed to do overnight drone show or a New Year's Eve drone show for our buddies in Austin. Sorry, that one got canceled. And then they had another scheduled event to do a drone show over Central Park in New York.
New York City.
We don't have to do that every time, do we? So it's canceled. And I think overall they'll get it worked out and we'll have them again. But when I saw that last year, I just thought, well, this is the new thing going forward. I'm going to look forward to this every year. And we didn't even get it 2 years in a row, really. Dang it. So the other concern that I've had now that you and I have had like a year to sort of digest this and be a little more familiarized with the drone situation is we've seen a lot of what's happening with these drone swarms with the battle that's going on between Russia and Ukraine. There's drone swarms that have been flying over and doing nasty things in the Syrian area. And some unmanned aerial vehicles were part of the Iranian attack on Israel where we shot down all of them. But still, Well, now drones aren't just these cutesy fun things that make these shapes and it's animated and it looks like the reindeer is actually walking. This is so cool. Now look up at those drone swarms. I'm like, what if some dude hacks those and just starts sending it at people? Yeah, are you ready to defend yourself against a drone? When you go out to Reunion Tower to watch the drone show, you're bringing a 12 gauge with you just in case. I'm not saying you should. That's what my thoughts go to. And I know that sounds like some sort of Marvel movie or some sort of Batman villain. And I mean, it kind of is, but it's actually a possible thing. Could you imagine hackers getting control of a drone swarm? And it's not like far-fetched at all. There was a famous bet between a professor at University of Texas and the Department of Homeland Security back in 2013, 2012, 2013, somewhere around there. They were getting a little too braggy about, the capabilities of their unmanned aerial vehicle, the Department of Homeland Security. And so some professor from Texas was like, hey, these things are pretty easily hacked. Your enemies could easily take those drones, hack them, and turn around and fly them back at you. We're surprised they hadn't figured it out yet. And Homeland Security's like, you can't hack one of our drones. And so the professor at UT Austin said, all right, take off. Let's go. Fly one over. Let's see what happens. And he hacked it. And he brought it down. And he landed it. And that was in 2013 with the technology that we had then. Did they get a little more sophisticated? Well, I mean, I hope so. But if anyone ever figures that out, that's going to get nasty. Can you imagine if we're in like a state of war? We have to worry about weaponized drone swarms ruining your New Year's Eve. I mean, other than that, y'all have fun tonight at New Year's Eve. Don't be thinking nefarious thoughts when you see the drones. They're all fun. Actually, they got canceled. So you're safe, but we'll see about that next year. 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. Coming up next, I saw a report. Is the Dallas Morning News using H-1B visas to hire foreigners to work at the Dallas Morning News over locals just because it's cheaper? You'll hear the evidence from Chris Putnam at thedallasexpress.com next on The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, happy New Year's. Welcome to the James Show. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on the FM at 93.3. Well, one of the big topics this week is these H-1B visas, and there's talk about reform. Should we expand it? Should we not? And it's been getting a lot of discussion. And wouldn't you know, I went to the Dallas Express, and it turns out there are major news outlets here in North Texas that use H-1B visas for their own labor. Chris Putnam's back on with the Dallas Express. And look, this raises a couple of questions. Number one, doesn't this throw into a shadow of credibility when they report on these visas? And secondly, really, you need to import people? What if there's actually someone on one of these visas that's shaping the news about the visa program itself? Some obvious conflicts here. How did y'all find out about this, Chris?
Yeah, there's a database that you can go to, and it basically shows all of the H-1B applications that have been filed, and then it actually shows, whether it's a public employer like Dallas Independent School District, which shockingly has 250 H-1B employees, or the Dallas Morning News, which we've identified at least a handful. It tells you, what jobs are available, how much they're paying, and you can actually see, what jobs have been applied for. So we're combing through that database to kind of create an inventory of all the local employers that are, heavily using H-1B labor. And to your point, with the Dallas Morning News, they're literally hiring reporters, city reporters, staff writers. So we're bringing in foreign nationals basically to report on city of Dallas issues, which seems insane.
So why are they doing this? I'm sure there's people in a metropolitan area of 7 million people who would love to work at the Dallas Morning News.
It's money. So, the Dallas Morning News lost last quarter $3.4 million. I believe that was their public company. That was their reported net loss. And that is accelerated from a $1.4 million loss in the same quarter of the previous year. So, like a lot of these legacy media outlets, they're just dying. Star Telegram, the Fort Worth Report, did a story, and they're down to 27,000 paid subscribers and only printing 3 days a week. So it's literally it's cost savings and nothing else. This is not the use case where, these are hard to get tech jobs or, complex tech jobs. It's literally just about saving money at the expense, as you rightly pointed out, of, American workers.
Well, there's also the conflict of interest. Shouldn't they have to disclose that they are financially buoyed by the H-1B visa program and could be hurt by its reform?
Yeah, I agree that there is a conflict of interest there, and they should disclose it. I don't want to suggest that they're not, because I don't actually know, but it's definitely something we should look into to see what level of disclosure all of these employers are providing.
Well, if they did disclose it, they're not overt about it. And the columns I've read, not one of them has volunteered that information. So, maybe I just didn't see it too, but they don't seem to be seems to be a secret.
I personally don't read the Dallas Morning News routinely.
Fair enough.
The Dallas Express in the 24 stories, the original stories that we produce a day. So, until this came up, I didn't take a very close look.
So Dallas ISD, what are they using these visa employees for?
So they have 250 at last count. And I think, I want to be certain about this, roughly half of them are English as a second language. So consider this. We're bringing foreign nationals in to teach foreign nationals English.
Oh, man, let me digest that for a second.
Yeah, as you know, a lot of them are here illegally, and
otherwise illegally, yeah.
We provide, free education, of course, to folks that are here illegally, and even some college programs do that, remarkably enough. So and then they do have some tech jobs. I can't qualify for you whether those are tech jobs that could be filled by an American worker or not. I was in the tech industry for 30 years, and I just, on a personal note, I'm not universally opposed to H-1B. I know the use cases where, there's certain competencies and skill sets, and particularly coding languages, that just aren't as readily available here as other parts of the world. And so I live in the middle of this argument. But I do think it radically needs reform. It shouldn't be being abused as just a cost savings exercise, which is, by all appearances, what's happening here.
What else did the DallasExpress.com discover in their H-1B visa look?
Well, we're not done looking, actually. So again, we're going to pursue a range of employers and report on, if in fact, these are jobs that, require a unique skill set, or in fact, they're strictly cost savings initiatives. And so you can look for those. It'll be kind of a steady flow of news on that front for some time.
How many employees at DallasExpress.com are under H-1B visa?
We have no H-1B employees.
Breaking news. All right. How did you get started with the Dallas Express? Tell the guys the backstory.
Me personally?
Yeah.
Oh, well, so I've been there about a year now. I'm the CEO. I know the publisher. I was involved in some other nonprofit endeavors with him. I was on one of his boards. And I've been retired otherwise for about 5 years from the tech industry. I started my career at IBM, and then I went to Perot Systems and worked with both Ross Sr. and Ross Jr. for like 5 years, and then did a startup and took it public and ran as a public company for 12 years, and then was fortunate enough to be able to stop working at a relatively young age, and did a lot of skiing and hiking and mountain biking until I ended up in the ER a couple of times. And I just really, I've just been a long time media critic, and I just thought it was a really unique opportunity. I thought that the asset, which had been around about 2 years prior to, me being involved, it was great, but it could just be so much more. And our growth this year, of course, has just exploded, including in the last week, as you know, from our discussion last week.
Yeah, from being on the James Show, it just exploded from there. DallasExpress.com, it's one of the news sources that has taken the legacy media down because it just does a more honest approach. They're not sneaking H-1B visa labor to report on H-1B visa labor. And if they did, you'd probably have some sort of disclaimer about it, I imagine. Right, Chris?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right, Chris? All right. Thank you very much. Chris Putnam, thank you. Happy New Year, sir.
Yeah, Happy New Year to you all as well. Thanks again for having me on.
All right, check out his work, DallasExpress.com. Your thoughts? Does this make you second guess? Shouldn't the Dallas Morning News have to disclose that they have H-1B visa labor in-house and they have a vested interest on the outcome of visa reform? 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey, happy new year. Welcome back to the James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. You were just hearing from Chris Putnam from DallasExpress.com, who uncovered in his report, says the Dallas Morning News is using H-1B visa labor. And, shouldn't they have to disclose that? Are you concerned that skews their reporting? Are you concerned that you have foreigners on the H-1B visa telling you what to think about the H-1B visa reform? 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. This is Armandina in Arlington. You're on WBAP. What do you think?
Our country should model the education system of the majority of those that we are giving H-1B visas to, is where our education system needs to model.
You mean like India?
Yes. What are they doing correct? What are they doing right? And I'm sure a lot of these H-1B visas in the big scale, big picture is like a drop in the bucket, but nevertheless, it is a topic of, it is something we do point out as to why do we hire these overseas versus our own people? What are we doing? What are we doing wrong? What is it that we're not doing here that they're doing that we should model?
Well, let's start to flesh that out. Number one, I think most people agree that if they're scarcely used just for the tippy top of the talent pool, H-1B visas are something that would make this country better. If there's, 30 of the best rocket scientists in the world in India, we'd rather them go to work here than either for India or for Russia or China. If you want to keep the top team, if you want to be the dominant guy. But clearly, when Dallas ISD is hiring them for janitors and ESL teachers, when Dallas Morning News is hiring them to either write stories or maintain the infrastructure behind the news delivery operation, it's just a cheap labor excuse for people like that. So, let's chop out the cheap labor stuff and just look at the legit uses of the H-1B visas that everyone agrees on. There's going to be top scientists in the world. We want them to work here. India is a nation with 1.2 billion people, and as awesome as we are, we're just 330 million people. So there's for every American, there's about 4 Indians. So when you look at the bell curve of accomplishment, of IQ, of engineers, whether it's rocket scientists or computer scientists or the people who make those really teeny tiny chips that have 4 trillion switches in a USB drive, necessarily more of them are going to be from India than every other country on the planet, just because there's more of them. So all they have to do is just sort of point their focuses in any direction, and they have the ability not to dominate an industry, but to make a foothold in the tippy tops of all these industries, the brain power ones. It doesn't mean they'll ever have a starting quarterback in the Super Bowl, but for making chips, for computer science, for rocket science, for SpaceX, for these little floating breadbox Interlink Starlink satellites, I think we'll always have some of them in here. And now we're just arguing, where's the cutoff?
Well, that's correct. I agree with everything you just said. It's just that when they're hiring people for less educated type jobs, that's just, to me, more pronouncement that the middle class is trying to get gutted out. Then we need to speak up on that point. But anyway,
well, and that makes it a delicate topic, because H-1Bs are absolutely necessary at the tippy top of professions to maintain our hyperpower status. But it's absolutely exploitative to the middle class and the lowest among us when they use it in these other facets. So same program, in one way it's being used as completely essential. Can we just reform it to get rid of the obviously abusive parts of it?
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you. I appreciate the call. Let's go to Steve in Carrollton. You're on WBAP. What do you think?
Hey, brother. A couple things. The H-1B program was not even designed to do what it is they're doing with it now. The H-1B visa program theoretically was to fill in the blanks where we didn't have people, not because we don't have the smart folks, not because we don't have the best and brightest, because frankly, H-1B doesn't even, if you look from the numbers that we've looked at lately, and so far nobody's been able to prove us wrong, is that the H-1B people only have a bachelor's degree at best, and most of them got the bachelor's degree here. because there's an F1 visa that starts out for the education piece, and then it falls into H-1B. You have to get a job.
Okay.
But so those people are not the best and brightest. The best and brightest would be the O-1 visa. The O-1 visas are the rocket scientists, those super duper brilliant people that come from all over the place. H-1B isn't even that. They don't sell it like that. But the facts are the numbers don't even stand up to scrutiny. That's why when you have people asking, all right, show me these best and brightest, name me one, name me five that are actually people that Americans couldn't get. The facts are what they have done is they've taken those people, used them overseas in companies, taught them the one little thing that their software had that would make it impossible for some American inexperienced American with that particular company to know. Now, of course, they have this special skill that nobody else is going to know. That's the fact that I'm in the IT industry, so I've suffered from this just the same as a lot of other Americans have. But the fact is that the language, the Dallas Express guy was like, there's these languages, these programming languages that Americans don't really do. That's not really true either. They do them. They just don't do one individual piece that one particular company has built specifically for their stuff, which should normally and historically has normally been taught at that company, as opposed to bringing somebody in from the street that already knows it. So, in fact, it can't. None of the story that you're hearing on the surface is what it really is in H-1B world. I hope that helps out.
That does. All right, Steve, I got to do some Googling after the show, but at least you pointed me in the right direction. Appreciate it, sir. What was it called? The O-1 visa is the
O-1.
O-1.
Yeah, like the
all right. Well,
military O-1.
I'll look it up. Thank you. That's Steve in Carrollton. If you want to be next, 800-288-9227. Coming up next, we're going to talk to Spencer McGowan from Net Worth Radio. The federal rate cuts were supposed to make borrowing for a house easier. If that's the case, why is it now still harder than ever to buy a house? And then also, where's the party tonight? What you doing? 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, all you beautiful Texans. Welcome back to the James Show. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM and 93.3. Happy New Year's Eve. Spencer McGowan is joining us on the James Show to talk about the economy. We just finished 2024 with what looks to be a pretty good year on Wall Street, at least. Are you pretty happy with the way the markets performed this year, Spencer? Well, yeah, we also had finally the rates got cut to kind of goose the markets for the end of the year. So, I think it's almost unfair to combine the two because they perform so differently. Well, we did have a couple of rate cuts here. We're expecting more to come. And, a lot of people were expecting that to make borrowing much easier. But here still, we have mortgage rates actually going up lately. Right. Economic growth is predicted to be at about 3%, according to the Atlanta Fed. Now, this is just a prediction. We'll get the real number here in a couple weeks. What do you think it's going to be at? Does that count? Does that take inflation into account? Is this the real number? All right. Another financial headline I wanted to run by you, Spencer McGowan, Net Worth Radio. U.S. credit card defaults are at the highest level in 14 years. What's up with that? Right. People were not thinking very long term with that decision. Let me ask you an impossible question, Spencer. We have inverted yield curves. Do you foresee a recession in 2025? Well, there's two sides to the oncoming rate cuts that people are expecting for next year. Number one is people are salivating at the idea of getting a mortgage under 4% again. But also, if rates are going to go down, do we need to lock in some of these other instruments? Like if you get a fixed annuity or an index, if you're looking to get some of these higher interest rates, whether it's a CD or whatever, to lock that in now before the rates go back down. Is there anything people should be doing right now in anticipation of lower rates? All right. What are y'all talking about on Net Worth Radio this weekend? Oh, I love that. Well, I have a prediction. The Cowboys will not win the playoffs. Just they're not going to get to the Super Bowl. They're not going to get to the NFC Championship game. Now, Spencer McGowan, thank you very much for your time and Happy New Year. All right, you can find Spencer McGowan, Net Worth Radio. He's on both WBAP here on the weekends and our sister station KLIF. They get a crack at him too. All right, coming up next, you're going to hear my list of what I think the top news stories of 2024 are. What do you think was the biggest story this year? 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. I have a couple in my list that are going to surprise you, so stick around. That's coming up in 4 minutes. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey, happy New Year. It's the James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. What's your top story of the year? I want to hear it. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. Now, I really want to hear from you if you're not in my list. Let me run through my list real quick. I got my top 10 stories. I didn't borrow a list from USA Today or rightwingtalkshowhost.com. This is the James Show list. My number one story of the year is the Trump shooting. More so than the Trump election, which is number two. I think that is going to be a more profound moment in history, in the history books. When we look back on this in 5, 10, 20 years, when future generations look back, they'll talk more about his ear getting clipped in July than they did about the votes that happened in November. So I think that's the number one story of the year. And it should be. I mean, not just in historical context, but for context of now, which makes it just so hilarious how the media just dropped this story. You don't know anything about that shooter. You still don't know about the foreign bank accounts, who set them up, why they're there, where the funds came from, who he was meeting before that. Nothing from his social media. Nothing. You know nothing about this guy. And no one seems to have any intellectual curiosity. We can send 7 FBI agents to go investigate the garage pull string on Bubba Wallace's garage. But the intellectual curiosity to get to the bottom of this mystery is nowhere to be found. Wow. Number 3 would be the whole Biden dropping out / Kamala being appointed. Look, that's historic in the fact that you have just never seen that in your entire life. You have never seen a political party even go through all the motions of having the primaries and caucuses. The guy wins and they still don't run that dude and just appoint. Just dictate who the nominee is going to be. And everyone on Team Blue was like, oh, okay, cool. Yeah, just tell me who I'm voting for. Oh, Masters. Oh, that was hilarious. Number 4, this is a headline that you're not going to find linked anywhere, but I am sort of collecting a lot of small stories. And in my number 4 is the high-profile lefty defections. The people who were on Team Blue their entire life. And, you know, that's kind of Trump's story. He was a Democrat pretty much all his life until like 2011 when he was like, don't you think it's weird that this guy's never had to show his birth certificate before? Like, I'm not saying he's born overseas or isn't qualified to be president. I'm just saying, like, the media hasn't even asked for the basic background on this guy. And then all of a sudden he was savaged and he's like, oh, well, apparently, since everybody on Team Blue hates me for asking really obvious questions, I guess I'm on Team Red now. But you could say the same thing about Elon Musk, who, you know, one of his big drivers and helpful allies this year, his entire life until about 5 months ago, he'd been considered a Democrat until he said nice things about Team Red or just colored outside the line in some form or fashion. He's not like a raging right-winger. He's not Pat Buchanan over there. He still believes in climate change. He's the electric vehicle king of the planet. So, you know, not exactly a Team Red firebrand, but here he is. He's on our side. Robert F. Kennedy. Not only a Democrat his entire life, but he has a legacy of Democrats going back a couple generations there. He's one of the strongest Democrat brands from one of the biggest Democrat families ever. He's from Camelot, y'all, and he's on Team Red now. Tulsi Gabbard, who was running for president as a Democrat just, a cycle ago, now on Team Red. And then some smaller guys, you know, like the Russell Brands and a lot of the rappers and whatever converted. Number 5, I think a big story coming out of this year that, you know, didn't really get a whole lot of headlines, but could have reverberations for years to come is that the Michigan school shooter, his parents got convicted, I should say, with a crime for allowing their crazy son to have access to a gun and not be properly controlled. Because I'd think about like the 16-year-old who shot the 17-year-old in Mesquite a couple weeks ago. Why isn't his parents being charged? They let him have access to a gun. He clearly is out of control, and they could have done more to rein him in. I was hoping for the legal precedent to be set for that. It'd be interesting if we actually applied the law equally based on all circumstances and not just political ones. But I still have hope that could open a legal Pandora's box that you'll like. Number 6, the 6th biggest story of the year, Hunter Biden's pardon. And it's not necessarily that, you know, Hunter Biden needs to go to jail for smoking crack or whatever he was being charged with. It's that it's quite clearly a cover-up of influence buying, bribes, because he did the very odd blanket pardon going back 11 years. Not 20 years, not 10 years, not 15 years. A very odd, not round number of 11 years. What happened 11 years ago? Oh, that's right. His son started working at Burisma for the Ukrainian oligarchs, and then there was millions of dollars exchanging hands. Oh, we get it now. That's a tacit admission of corruption, is really the story behind the Hunter pardon. Number 7, Syria falls to the rebels. Not that big yet, but who comes in their place? You didn't care too much when the Russians were kicked out of Afghanistan. You thought, oh, well, this is probably a good thing. Except the Taliban took over, and we ended up having negative consequences because of that, didn't we? So Syria might be one of those situations. Number 8, the United States is now participating in a hot war with Russia. I mean, I can't believe this isn't getting more coverage. There are American missiles and rockets and bullets being fired in Russian territory against Russian forces and some North Korean forces, maybe. And so it's not just us helping with some drone technology or with some intelligence or with humanitarian aid. We are participating in a hot war, not a Cold War, like actual shooting, a shooting war with Russia right now. Number 9 is the January 6th report. January 6th report is interesting in the same reason the Hunter Biden pardon is interesting. Not that we necessarily, have the nefarious storyline going on behind the individual cases, but it's more about what it's covering up. The Stop the Steal people were demonized and persecuted. Why? Because they were onto something. They were close to the truth. The Stop the Steal people were buoyed by the results of this election that made the last election look a little silly. Maybe they were onto something about that whole Stop the Steal thing. Of course they were. That's why they got persecuted so hard. And number 10, my number 10 biggest story of the year is the COVID report. Now, we had the Cochrane study that came out last year in 2023, where they looked at all the studies that had been done on masks and either found flaws in some or metadated all the rest of them to come up with the conclusion that masks did nothing. It's statistically not measurable, the effect mask wearing or mask mandates had in the coronavirus pandemic. It was all a big mistake, the whole mask thing. But the COVID report came out and said all the rest of this stuff. The social distancing, we just made that 6 feet number up. There's no study. There's no book for that. There's no real world data for that. The shutdowns, the lockdowns, kicking people out of school, kicking people out of their job, firing pilots, firing nurses, firing soldiers, keeping you from going to church. Yeah, that was all for nothing. It was just a big fat violation of about 4 of the amendments in the Bill of Rights there. And now that we know that all that was just garbage and based on a lie and ineffective, where's the punishments? The COVID report should be the beginning. It gives the predicate. It gives now the foundation for when this new administration comes in to turn around and say, now that we know all this, a lot of you guys who are arresting pastors and preventing people from going to school and whatnot, negative consequences. It's called responsibility. It's called accountability. May that rain down in 2025 based on this report here that we just got in 2024 here at the end. What was your biggest story of 2024? 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. Coming up next, we're going to talk about doctors reaching burnout at high levels. How will this affect your health care? That's coming up on The James Show. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome to the James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Welcome to the big show. Happy New Year's Eve. And just to let you know, it's a live show. We have breaking news. Ezekiel Elliott's been released by the Cowboys. So let's talk about that for a second. I know this isn't a sports show, but we're not going to talk X's and O's here. So for Ezekiel Elliott, this could be a good thing. Why would that be a good thing? Listen, Ezekiel Elliott had asked to be let go. And I just saw that rumor, I don't know, recently. And we found out 33 minutes ago that his request has been granted. It's not that he got cut or they fired him. He asked to be let go and they said okay. So the Cowboys are doing him a favor. Now, why is this a big deal for Ezekiel Elliott? Well, there's still a game left in the regular season. Ezekiel Elliott thinks he could be picked up by one of the teams going into the playoffs. And what happens whenever you have, how many teams go to the playoffs now? 14 or something to that effect? Some of them might need an Ezekiel Elliott. Some of them might have some injuries to their existing running backs. And this is a chance for him to just do something. And, if you think that this guy doesn't have any or much gas left in the tank. 29 is kind of old for a running back. I know that sounds weird to non-sports fans, but that's sort of the norm. He should be reaching the twilight of his career at this point. But it's hard to tell a guy that. It's hard. I don't think I would understand it if I was in that situation. I don't think I would admit it if I was in that situation. Even if I did have it in the back of my mind, I would be powering through it and denying it and trying to prove everyone wrong for as long as I possibly could, precisely because it's not just a high value job monetarily, but also for social status and just lifestyle. And this is what you've worked your whole life to do, is be a professional football player. So you want to drag that out as long as possible. But I think he might have some gas left in the tank. A lot of people weren't impressed with what they saw from him and think, well, there's a reason why we let him go to begin with after the first 7 years. There's a reason why New England let him go after 1 year. And I think in the back of his mind, he's got to be thinking, look, I've only gotten like 5 carries per game in the 15 games I've played. Of course, I don't have a whole lot of yards. He didn't get a whole lot of opportunities. He wasn't the number one guy. He wasn't used like he was previously used when he had the Russian title for a couple years when he was here. And so, you know what? I think for even if a 29-year-old running back, just to be able to streak through the playoffs and have to play 3, maybe 4 more games tops, I bet you he can make a difference somewhere. And I hope he does. I understand the Cowboys letting him go. There was a game where he was benched earlier this year because he had missed some practices or a team meeting, or he was late to team meetings. I don't know. It seemed like a real hall monitor type complaint. It's not like he backhanded a valet or there was a domestic violence arrest or anything like that. I think he missed some meetings or something like that. So maybe he's just not getting along with the old crew. Maybe he's not getting along with the new crew. Who knows? But I wish him well. The guy came and gave us 7 good years, and then his 9th year was, he gave it to us. We just didn't do much with it. So the second Ezekiel Elliott era is now over, and we wish him well. And he always seemed like a guy that was nice in the interviews and whatnot. If you've ever been close to professional athletes, you've probably been disappointed because a lot of these guys are not the intellectual stalwarts you had hoped. Let's just say that. And quite a few of them are just downright mean. They just have bad attitudes. Did you see the documentary, The Last Dance with Michael Jordan? Seems like kind of a jerk, doesn't he? Well, a lot of successful people are. Nick Saban seems like he might be kind of an unagreeable fella. But unagreeable people can get a lot accomplished. Same thing with Bill Belichick. I don't know if I would want Bill Belichick to host a dinner party, but he might be a pretty good coach if Mike McCarthy doesn't stick around. But it's also a reminder for non-sports fans, you'll get this, how fleeting everything is. Even when we talk about the Dallas Cowboys, like how many Dallas Cowboys on the team now were here before Ezekiel Elliott started in, what was that, 2016-ish? Pretty much none. Well, how do we root for this same team year after year when it's not the same people? We just love anyone who puts on that uniform. They just get the benefit of the doubt. because that's what you're really cheering for. You're just cheering for that uniform. You're cheering for that collection of colors with that logo on the helmet. I mean, you're not even necessarily that loyal to the town they play in, because they're the Dallas Cowboys who moved to Irving and then Arlington, and it had almost no effect on their fans. They don't care. We're just cheering for this uniform for decades. But it's easy to forget there's real people in each one of those uniforms. Each one of those uniforms is someone's story. It's someone's dream come true. It's they're playing through injuries just to suit up and try and score and make you happy. And I know they're doing it for the money as well, but both of those ambitions are aligned pretty well. The better they do, the happier we are, the more money they make. It's all a beautiful little world, but it doesn't last very long, does it? And then I also think 29 years old. Can you imagine how tough must it be to reach your life's peak at 29? What do you do for the last 50, 60 years of your life? Everything's the downhill slope. It's like being a rock star. You have a couple of top 10 hits, maybe 2 albums, 3 if you're lucky. And then by the time you're 32, you're on the downslope of your life and never to be at that high point again. It's almost, it's kind of like the opposite of what I did. I was incredibly unsuccessful throughout my 20s and 30s, and I'm just starting to turn up just like a modicum where I'm making like literally hundreds of dollars now doing my dream job. Get it? Hundreds of dollars. All right, Ezekiel Elliott, you seem like a nice guy. We loved you while you were here. Wish you the best of luck. I hope you get on whatever team is going to the Super Bowl. I recommend either the Vikings, the Lions, or the Chiefs to give you the best shot. Why don't you just go ahead and give them a call, and don't be a stranger. You were great. Coming up next, we're going to talk to Dr. Bill Hennessy, and we're going to talk about doctor burnout reaching record levels. How does this affect you? We'll talk about it next on The James Show. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome to the James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. I just saw on X that in a public poll, the people were more trusting in the reliability of the McDonald's ice cream machine than Congress. That was hilarious. All right, my next guest, Dr. Bill Hennessy, is coming back on the James Show here on WBAP to address this kind of scary headline I saw where doctor burnout's reaching an all-time high. Is this something we need to be concerned about, Dr. Bill Hennessy?
I think we should be concerned about it. I'd like to see all of us have access to a doctor when we need one.
All right, so what's causing this record burnout?
There's a few things. We could probably talk for an hour, but at the top of my list is the electronic medical record. That's now become an iPad that a doctor will stare at instead of paying attention to you, the patient. And after you leave, there's a lot more buttons to push. The average physician is slowed down 25% by button pushing on iPads for an electronic medical record system. And so that has created a 25% physician shortage, which is not good for any of us. And that leaves doctors doing this paperwork, so to speak, at nighttime. The EMR is exhausting. It was originally designed in the early 2000s, supposedly to decrease morbidity and mortality, which means disease and death. Guess what? It hasn't done that. It's been used by hospital administrators to control revenue by controlling where doctors refer patients for money.
I see. So is there like a piece of legislation that created this monster?
There is. Medicare is one of them. It requires that there be an electronic medical record system.
Oh, well, there you go. Yeah.
You know, so I get there's reasons for tracking care, but the EMR could be a whole lot less burdensome to doctors.
You know,
that's one of the top reasons that the doctors are burned out. But I got more.
Go ahead, please.
So look at what happened in the 90s compared to now. In the 90s, the average person had 2 medical conditions and was on 2 medications. Now they're on 8 medications for 6 medical conditions. It's exhausting to be a physician now to address all of those. Combine that with now the average high deductible is $6,000. I repeat, $6,000. That means that you're paying every dollar out of your care. So when you come see me as a doctor, you want the most value. We get BTW'd. What does that mean? By the way, you're there for your right shoulder, but by the way, can you look at my low back? Oh, by the way, my kid's here. Can you look up his nose? They want to get the most value out of that doctor visit, so they only tell you one thing, and then they hit you up with 2 more when they're in there. And multiply that by 15 to 20 patients a day, and doctors are exhausted.
Well, I have heard my doctor friends talking to each other, and I found like the level of stress is different depending on what field you go into. One of my close friends is a plastic surgeon. He never really has to deal with, or rarely, I should say, has to deal with Medicare or Medicaid or even health insurance. And he seems to have like the least amount of stress on him. I have another friend who's a pediatrician. So, you know, sometimes Medicaid, sometimes insurance, but not really Medicare. And then I have another doctor who covers everybody and just despises all the systems and the rules and the people he has to hire just to get paid to do medicine.
The 4-word definition of Blue Shield, United, Cigna, and Aetna is collect premium, deny payment. So a full 20% of claims are denied. That means doctors are busting their tail ends to resubmit claims to try to get them paid. And at the same time, on the front end, they don't want to pay for anything that costs more than $100, and we need pre-authorization, and they want us to talk for free on our time and our dime to their doctors, who are all, by the way, just family doctors. So if you think you're talking specialist to specialist and it's peer-to-peer, it's not really. So it's exhausting to deal with the insurance companies on the front end for pre-authorization. It's exhausting to deal with the indefinite number of carrier denials. None of us like BUCA as the middleman, Blue Shield, United, Cigna, and Aetna.
Oh, I totally believe that. We've had a pretty good conversation on that since the United Healthcare CEO was shot in New York. Now, when we talk about solutions here for the consumer, do they need to do something about that after they get the bill? Before they get the bill, is there anything they can do? What do you recommend?
Well, like it or not, it may be an unpleasant task, but healthcare is so expensive. I'm encouraging everybody to ask, call and ask before your elective care for the cash price first. Second, you ask for the insurance price. Third, you get them to email that to you for personal accountability. You want to know who you talk to, and you want an email to hold them accountable. And afterward, never, ever pay a bill unless you get an itemized bill with every care item spelled out. No hospital provides an itemized bill. And they do that on purpose. They like to hide the cost of care to rip you off. It's poor customer service. You buy something from Amazon or the grocery store, guess what? It's itemized, and you didn't even have to ask for it. Healthcare should be like that, and we're trying to make it that way.
Well, your company, you're a doctor, but you do CGASaves.com. Talk to Dr. Bill Hennessy, by the way, if you're just joining us. You do a thing where you review existing medical bills, looking for, negotiations, accuracy, excessive charges, things that you can do to sort of lower the cost of the bill. How did you transfer from being a doctor to doing this?
Well, the stepping stone was I was a doctor, and I started looking at what I worked to get paid, and I was like, well, I'm not collecting what I'm supposed to be. And then I said, well, I'm going to start doing my own billing and seeing where I'm getting ripped off. And then it's like, now I see how I'm being ripped off. And then I became a coding and billing integrity expert. And then I said, you know what? Most people don't even know what I do. Everybody needs help if I needed help. And so I said, my goal is to help millions save billions on healthcare. If I saw 15 patients a day, that ain't going to do it. But as a serial entrepreneur who's now founded 5 different companies, 4 of them in the healthcare cost saving space, I'm on my pathway to helping millions save billions on healthcare in this crooked, rigged purchasing system.
Well, I like the sound of all that. If you want to check out what Dr. Bill Hennessy does with CGASaves.com, go to the website. Maybe he can help you out. Thank you, Dr. Bill.
Thank you. Happy New Year.
Again, CGASaves.com. And if you're going to email me after the show and ask me again, I don't mind. Someone did that to me yesterday. Someone did that to me last Friday. Seriously, I'm ecstatic you even remembered enough to send an email. CGASaves.com. All right, stick around. Coming up next on the James Show, after you get all caught up on the news, we're going to talk about immigration issues with Renata Castro from a immigration firm here in Dallas. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Well, hey there, all you beautiful Texans. Welcome back to the James Show. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3, and happy New Year's Eve. Be safe out there. Where's the party? 800-288-9227. I'm not coming to your party, but if you're doing something cool, let me know. Or if something cool happens, call me on tomorrow's show and give me the update. Also, this is one of the 2 times a year where I have to remind people, and when I say people, I mean people like me, be careful with the fireworks. I hope you come back with all 10 fingers tomorrow. I know some of you won't, and that's okay. It's a sacrifice to the fireworks gods, and Jesus loves you just the same. My next guest, Renata Castro, back on USA for All, an immigration firm, is her outfit. Perfect person to talk to in this time where immigration news is still floating around the headlines, even though it's a holiday. And I've been enjoying the back and forth over the H-1B visa program. For people who are new to the show and new to talk radio, how would you explain the H-1B visa program, Renata?
The H-1B visa program allows individuals with a college degree or equivalent experience to fill highly specialized job occupancies in the United States that have been made available to Americans or others with proper work authorization, and the positions just weren't filled. So this is a lottery. There's a very limited number of visas available, and several software and IT professionals are known to use these numbers, these visas, to be able to come and work legally in the United States.
Yeah, and the concern here is that the H-1B visa, if it was only being used for the tippy top of the talent crop to fill jobs that just otherwise couldn't be filled, I think most people are in favor of that. The criticism comes when you see some people using HB1 visas for jobs that Americans clearly would do, but it looks like they're just trying to pay as little as they can and get away with lower wages. Your response to that?
This is the perception that is presented to the public. However, the wages that are paid to those under the H-1B program are in fact set by the government. The government establishes through what's called a labor certification application what the wage is, which is the market's wage. It's not the employer's position or opportunity to undercut those wages. So that is not a valid argument. That is a perception, but that's not a fact.
Well, we have some investigation by the Dallas Express that shows that the Dallas Morning News is using H-1B visas for people to maintain their news platform and actually write news stories. Now, I have a hard time believing there's not people here in America who are qualified to write news stories. So what other reason would they bring in foreign workers to do those jobs other than lower wages?
Well, there's quite a possibility that those writing the news are covering international news. This is not to say that there aren't Americans who are competent and able, have the capacity to do those jobs. It just means that these companies, and you have to look at recruitment in a vacuum. It is opportunity with Americans interested. And when I say Americans, it's anyone in the United States, immigrants included, who have an employment authorization document. So this is not to eliminate Americans from the job pool. It just means that there are certain occupations that employers have a harder time than others filling these positions, and that's where the H-1B visa is used. And I must say, the quota is very limited. I may be misquoting the numbers. Lawyers are notoriously bad with numbers, but I believe that the last quota was set at 120,000 visas. So it is a very small percentage of the American job market.
I had a caller bring up the O1 visa program, or an O visa, and I got to tell you, I don't know that level of detail. How does the H-1B visa program compare to the O visa program?
That's a great question. The O visa program is almost at an Einstein level. These are individuals that are highly accomplished in their position, and they don't necessarily need an employer in the United States. On the H-1B visa, to the contrary, you must have a sponsoring employer in the United States, and you can only use that visa for 7 years. So imagine you build a career in the United States, you build a family, you buy a home. After 7 years, if you don't get a green card or you don't continue to have another visa opportunity, you have to pack up and leave. The O visa is a little more permissive. It gives you a lot more opportunity, but in a way, O visa holders have earned that opportunity because they're more accomplished professionals.
Cool. So could I get an O visa and pretty much go anywhere I wanted? Do other countries do this is kind of what I'm asking.
Several other countries do have extraordinary ability visas, and now there is a fight for talent, which is really, which is what at the center of this dispute with the Republican Party and these new ideas brought by Elon Musk and Vivek in regards to H-1Bs and how they can put America at the forefront of technology and innovation. But the United States is not the only country. Singapore, which is actually, in the world job market, becoming a very attractive job market for IT talent, becoming very aggressive in attracting IT talent in a similar visa such as the H-1B.
So when you have like the Mavericks big superstar right now, Luka Doncic, he's from Slovenia. What visa is he on?
He's most likely on an O visa or a P visa, which is for athletes and certain performers on a schedule. And if he wants, he can actually get a green card because he would qualify for something called the EB-1A green card, which is the Einstein green card, which is actually how Melania Trump got a green card even before she was married to Donald Trump because of her accomplishments as a model. So it's very likely that this Maverick player has a green card because he is someone that actually contributes to the U.S. economy and someone that we want with his talent and his contributions being legally in the United States.
How smart do you have to be to get an O visa?
I think that I wouldn't get one. That's in the explanation, but it's really I tell clients that to get an O visa, you have to be accomplished and have evidence. So this cannot be a fisherman's tale. You have to show proof of what you've accomplished professionally, and you have to have a clear plan. What are you going to do in the United States that brings a benefit or several benefits to the American economy, to the job market, to innovation? So it is a very high level of accomplishment that one must achieve in order to get an O visa.
All right. So if you go to the Wikipedia page for O visas, they tell you who some of the recipients are, and you'd recognize a whole lot of them. Now, Andrew Lloyd Webber is what we're talking about. The guy who wrote, like, what was it, Les Miserables and all that. Yeah, he did Cats. He did Jesus Christ Superstar. But also you have like Justin Bieber, Iggy Azalea, Boy George, Garrett's favorite singer, Boy George over there. So yeah, you're talking about sort of the cream of the crop of like Pele got an O visa to come here. So talking about really accomplished people. But some of these aren't just like tennis players and whatnot. You get a couple of Nobel Prize winners in here, and did you say this is how Melania got in? Probably.
Yes, Melania actually got an EB-1A, which is a green card. So
I don't even know what that is.
What's a license?
What's an EB-1A?
Yes. So an EB-1A is a green card. So a visa is revocable. So meaning at any time, without much justification, the U.S. government can revoke your visa. Now, when you have a green card, now you have constitutional rights and you're on a path to becoming a U.S. citizen. So Nobel Prize winners, medalists, published authors, these individuals would likely qualify for a green card under the EB-1A.
All right. We're learning more every day, and I appreciate you helping us out with that. This is Renata Castro from USA for All. You can find her website if you're looking for some immigration law help, USA, the number 4, and then all.com. Thank you, Renata.
Happy New Year.
Yeah, Happy New Year to you, too. All right. I imagine this is going to continue to be a big issue as the days go along. So stay tuned to the James Show, because coming up next, we have the top news audio clips of the year. I already gave you my top 10 stories of the year, but what were the top 10 audio clips that entertained you the most? That's coming up in 4 minutes on the James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, Happy New Year. It's the James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Welcome to the big show, the last James Show of 2024. In fact, we have less than 8 hours of 2024 left. Make it count. This has been a heck of a year for news. I mean, what an easy year to do a talk radio show. I mean, I really just coasted all year. I could have put in half the effort I did and still come up with 3 hours of awesome content. Because so much happened this year that you have just never seen in your entire life. And the number one thing was 28 parts of the election were new. You had never had an election where the guy going in has cases against him. And while he's going through the primary process, he's having to show up in court. And they're throwing felony counts at this dude, and they got 34 of them to stick, and they run around saying, well, he's a convicted felon over some manufactured paperwork crimes where there's no victim, there's nothing stolen. It's obviously just manufactured out of thin air, but all you got to do is get a jury of New Yorkers that hate him a ton to say, yeah, he's a bad guy, let's do something about this. And so they got their counts, but they never got a sentence. So technically, I believe it's illegal, or incorrect, I should say, to claim this guy's a convicted felon because he got a verdict, but he never got a sentencing. And that's the two things that make something a conviction. But whatever. The point is, you had never seen that before. You had never seen on the other side of the aisle a guy coming in who was so daffy, who was so diminished in his mental faculties that he wasn't trusted with the media outside of a script for 5 seconds. And it's something that you had seen when most of us had known for the last 5 years by looking at the guy that he's in mental decline. Every day it seemed to get worse. Yet half of the country was saying, no, he's great. He's a good guy. He's ready to be the next guy. We don't even have to go through the whole primary process. We'll just pretty much appoint him. And the primary process on that side of the aisle was a disaster in the fact that the Democrats did everything they could to keep everyone else off of the primary ballots. They sued to keep RFK off all the primary ballots everywhere they could. They stifled him. They stopped him. They didn't give him any news coverage. They didn't give him any help. They treated like persona non grata. And then there were a few primaries where Biden was just deemed the winner. You know, Democrats in Florida didn't get to vote even in the primaries for Biden. He was just deemed the winner. I believe he was just deemed the winner of South Carolina as well. There was a handful of states where they didn't even do the votes. Some of them, they did the votes and didn't count. They just deemed him the winner. And then after all that, it was the debate that happened June 27th, 2024. The most consequential soundbite of the year was in this debate.
Move until we get the total ban on the total initiative relative to what we're going to do with more Border Patrol and more asylum officers.
President Trump?
I really don't know what he said at the end of that sentence. I don't think he knows what he said either. Look.
That's it. That was the most consequential soundbite of 2024. Right then, you heard a man's presidential candidacy die. It died right in front of your face in that soundbite. What you also heard, if you rolled down your window at the time, is the scrambling of 100 million Team Blue operatives trying to figure out what the hell are we going to do next. And then the second biggest soundbite is Donald Trump getting shot. This was from July 13th, 2024. I made this cool little mix out of it just because it fits so good with the 50 Cent song. Let me play it for you, the
our country,
poetic version.
Probably 20 million people. And you know, that's a little bit old, that chart. That chart's a couple of months old. And if you want to really see something that's said, take a look at what happened.
So that was probably the soundbite that more so than any other you'll hear in the future. Probably the second most consequential soundbite of the year. Another thing that you haven't seen. There's no one that's taken a shot and hit a presidential candidate on the campaign trail. The closest you've seen to that is when Ronald Reagan got shot by John Hinckley. Okay, that's kind of close. But for a lot of us, we had never seen anything like that. That is wild. John Hinckley's kind of before I was coherent. But that was also just a miracle that he turned his head at the last second, managed to save his own life. Another big soundbite that it doesn't sound big, and you probably won't hear this in the future, but there were a whole lot of conversions this year. This is Russell Brand, a guy who's been an outspoken liberal activist pretty much his whole life. And then when he started his own podcast and started digging into all these stories, he kept uncovering a truth that he didn't know before, and then another one, and then another one, and then another one. And then he got to Jesus, and it changed him.
The reason I wear a cross is because Christianity, and in particular the figure of Christ, are, it seems to me, inevitably becoming more important as I become more familiar with suffering, purpose, self, and not self. Reading the Bible a lot more, and as I've told you before, I'm reading Rick Warren's Purpose-Driven Life. When I grew up, Christianity seemed like it was
Anyway, I can go ahead and cut this off. But, I had a lot of these clips this year. And there was Michael Rappaport, who was one of the biggest Trump haters possible, turning a corner this year, saying he's not voting for Biden.
I'm not voting for Biden. No. I'm not voting for Kamala.
So no matter what that decision is.
Anyway, there was that. And then on the small level, there were a lot of, I was playing you videos of young people who you've never heard of before talking about how they've been converted. Some of it was political, some of it was social.
I saw a girl on here say that when you have a good man, you're going to be in that kitchen and you're going to like it. And I could not agree more, because I was such a no, he can make his own food. No, I'm not going to get up at 3-4 in the morning and make lonchas. I'm not going to do that. And, now that I have a good man, now that I'm being taken care of, yes, sir, expeditiously. Oh, your grandma used to make carne guisada and homemade tortillas, and that was your favorite thing? Cool. I'm going to learn to make carne guisada and homemade tortillas. It's that simple. I hate dishes. I absolutely hate the dishes. Now, you need me to wash the dishes? I'll do you one better. I'll deep clean the sink afterwards, too.
You could just hear the feminism leaving her body, couldn't you? It's just drifting off like Casper's ghost. So those are some of my favorite sound bites of 2024. I expect we'll give you some good ones in 2025 as well. Coming up next, we're going to talk to Victor Angel. He works with poverty and homelessness, and we're asking him about homelessness rates up in 2024. Why is that? What has led to the rise in homelessness this year? What can we do about that? That's coming up next on The James Show. I'm James Parker, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome to the James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Happy New Year's Eve. Yeah, it's got a good reason to party tonight. Join me for the Hangover Show tomorrow. I will be live, so, if you still got to work, and I know a lot of people are saying, who has to work? What kind of terrible job do you have where you have to work on holidays? Well, a lot of people do, okay? I do, even though my job's not important, but, policemen, firemen, nurses, doctors, cattle ranchers, you still have to feed the pigs, even if it's a holiday. So a lot of us are going to be working tomorrow. I'll be working with you. Feel free to come on by the James Show, because tomorrow is a special episode. It's going to be the secret episode, which means I'm going to answer any question that you call in with, no matter what, even if it's personal. I'm not going to give out my address or my social security number. But this will be like an open phone line thing. And then on top of that, I am not going to post the podcast. So the only people that are going to share in tomorrow's show is going to be the people that hear it live. It's going to be the poorest saps like us who have to work. We'll have our own special little New Year's Day show tomorrow. So join me for that. Right now, Victor Angel's coming on the James Show to talk about the uptick in homelessness in 2024. The economy wasn't bad. I guess they weren't invested in the stock market, though, Victor. What is the reasons we had an increase in homelessness this year?
Hey, James, how you doing? I mean, the reality is rent prices and just overall cost of living is going up. So although we didn't really have a bad year economically, I think there's a lot of people, a lot of families, and we're seeing more and more families and children now that are living on the street homeless.
So how different was it from state to state? Was it more pronounced in some areas?
Yeah, I mean, I'm in Los Angeles, Southern California, so it's pretty bad out here. I hear a lot of things going on as well in Portland, Oregon, and just nearby states. A lot of the people that are now being found on the streets are actually being sent to LA since it is a sanctioned state. They feel like perhaps they can get better help here.
Well, that's we had a similar discussion here in Dallas that y'all dealt with in California before. Do you allow people to put up tents in publicly owned lands? And we voted against that this year. You guys, I've seen, it seems like y'all have embraced that. What kind of effect does that have on homelessness?
I mean, we definitely do embrace it. When you can walk outside and it doesn't matter where you are, but it's evident. It's everywhere. You can be walking up the street. You can be walking down an alley and you'll see tents plopped up. People living on the streets, they kind of have, not to say no choice, but it's kind of what they're left to how they're left to live. And so it does affect businesses, right? Because obviously people don't like to walk into a place where there's homeless everywhere. And it's honestly something that has been, we can say we're just numb to the situation.
Oh, that's terrible. Well, economic libertarians like myself look at the tents as a reminder. It's like you people are the ones that are against substandard housing and slumlords, but substandard housing and slumlords would still be better than living in a tent.
Yeah, it's very unfortunate. I mean, a lot of the things, a lot of the, what we're seeing and what we're hearing when we speak to these people, because we're out there day in and day out connecting with these people, and they don't like the rules and regulations that come with that. So they oftentimes opt out to living on the streets. But one of the things that I do want to share is really us as a community, as a society, coming together and really attacking it in a more practical stance, right? Really connecting with these people and hearing their story, right? Because everyone has a story to tell. But if we just continue to look at the people as, people that just want to live on the street, it's a cry for help, whether it's drug related or it could be family and friend related. A lot of people, are on the street because they don't have support. They don't have friends, family to really, back up on.
What do you recommend the average person do? Do you recommend against giving money to panhandlers?
If it's in your heart to give and you have to give, why not? My recommendation is find your local organization. Find the people that are out there doing the work and support them. Because, like myself, we have an organization called Give Soap. We're out there distributing hygienic care kits. Also, we have a team of people that give services. Like we do feet washing, we do manicures and pedicures, we do facials, and we partner up with other organizations that have mobile showers. And so now we're also offering holistic care like massage therapy. So doing things like this and really connecting with the people, I feel it's a better solution than, just handing money out or just, but like I said, if it's in your heart to give and you feel that nudge in your heart, then, I'm not going to knock anybody for doing so.
Yeah, we're talking with Victor Angel. He's a poverty activist. And, I say you shouldn't give him money, but every once in a while, I feel that little tinge of conscience, like an angel's looking at me. And I'll throw a couple bucks at him every once in a while. So I'm sort of guilty of that, too. The reason we're talking to Victor today is there's the recent federal report on homelessness says there's an 18% increase in the country as a whole for the homeless population. But they have them in a few categories here. You have your sheltered homeless, where technically you don't have a home, but you're staying in an emergency shelter or some sort of transitional housing. But the number of unsheltered homeless, people who are sleeping on the streets, it's over 250,000 people. What do we do about that? Is that a number that I know we'll never get it to zero, but what does that have to get to before we consider it success?
You mentioned something very, very important. You say we'll never get it to zero, but the reality is, government officials and the people that, are in a position to do something about it, they don't really want to fix the issue. And that's because funding will stop. It's a sad truth. And so I would like to live in a day where we can see nobody on the streets. But if we're being realistic, I think it's just going to take really connecting with these people, understanding the underlying issues, and being able to, be there as a support and really care for them, give back their sense of touch and feeling. Because, when you're walking the street and you cross the street just to not, walk in front of someone, kind of like the Good Samaritan, we tend to desensitize ourselves and even desensitize the people that we're looking at on the street.
Yeah, and I find it doubly frustrating because I've been in the situation where I have seen a homeless shelter with empty beds, and at the end of the block are homeless people sleeping in tents. They don't want to sleep in the shelter because they don't want to live by the rules. They don't want to be sober. They want to drink or do drugs or whatever they're into. And so I find it almost frustrating in the fact that, I feel sorry for you guys, but now you're choosing to be homeless, so for some of them, they're I don't want to call them like an outdoor urban enthusiast, but this is their preference.
Yeah, it may be their preference to some, but I always like to look at every individual as someone. And so that could be someone's mother, someone's daughter, someone's brother, or someone's father. And so we tend to look at and change the lens in which we look at them. We can maybe tap into a different part of our hearts, of our spirits, to really see them as God's people. And so, we're really just called to care for people at the end of the day. And their choice is their choice, but we also have a choice to, be able to do something about it. Now, we're not going to be able to help every single person that we come across, but we're really just looking for that one person that wants to change their life around.
Victor Angel, I'm about out of time. How can we find your work outside of WBAP?
GiveSope.com is GiveSope. Soap is spelled like hope, so we're giving hope through our soap.
Spell that again.
GiveSope. GiveSope.com.
It's not SOAP?
No, it's SOPE, like hope.
Okay. That's why I wanted you to repeat it. Kind of threw me off. GiveSope.com. And it works. I'm looking at your website right now. I appreciate it. This is Victor Angel. Appreciate it, sir.
Thank you, James. God bless.
Out there doing God's work. All right, coming up next, I'm going to have some of my funniest sound bites of 2024 as we put a wrap on the New Year's Eve special edition of The James Show. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome to the James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. If you want to jump in and tell me your favorite moment from 2024, we've only got one segment to do it, 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. Come join me tomorrow for a special episode of the James Show, the January 1st episode. I was on January 1st of last year. Actually, that was my first James Show, so technically today, the James Show makes one full year without getting fired. Hey, we can cheer a little more for that, right? Yeah, there we go. There we go. That's not guaranteed in this job, y'all. There is no guarantee that you will have your job in a year from now or 3 months from now. I might get called to HR at 5 o'clock when I get off. That's happened, by the way. And that's how they do it. They'll just pick one day as soon as your show's over. Hey, excuse me, can you come down to the 4th floor? And then you're like, uh-oh, I know what this is. I know what this is. So I need a better 2025 out of you. I know you're listening. You're not the problem. We just need more people like you is what we need on the old James Show. Also, since I am a full-throated free market capitalist pig, there is nothing unethical or embarrassing. It's right on brand for me to say, listen, if you got a business, you might want to think about advertising on the old James Show to make sure I can stick around here. I have a fantastic crowd. I have the people with money. Yes, we're a little bit older. Yes, we have a little bit of gray coming in on the sides up here. But we have a very important thing for most businessmen. It's called disposable income. Yes, that's what the WBAP audience has. Uh-huh. So if you're selling cars or you're selling, I don't know, breast implants or something else that costs a lot of money and is aimed at this audience, really think about that for 2025. It may just help a brother out. It may turn your business around. But I want to leave my last segment of 2024 on a positive note, a hilarious note, because I'm the kind of booger that really enjoys this more than I should. And that's when people just run their mouth and get proven wrong. I don't know why I eat that up so much, but when I was going through my favorite sound bites of 2024, look, there was a lot of nominees, and it came down between two guys. But this is going to be your winner here. I'll play the honorable mention next, but this is oh gosh. I can't tell you how many times I listened to this yesterday when I was putting the show together last night. I think I listened to it like 6 times in a row and just laughed. There was a lady the day of the election that put just the most smarmy, condescending, elitist, stuck-up message on TikTok. And just listen to this. Just tell me how delicious this is.
Okay, so we're closing in on almost 5 p.m. Eastern time, and I've been tracking everything that's been going on across the country today. And my most important encounter was when I went out to get my champagne. I was talking to the guy in the store, of course, asking him, did he vote? And he said he did early voting, and he asked me if I early voted. And he asked me, why I was getting the champagne. And I said, because I'm going to be toasting Madam President tonight. And he just looked at me with kind of like a smirk on his face. And I said, she's going to win this, right? And he says, oh, well, it's very, very close. And I said, no, it's not. He says, well, what do you mean? I said, no, it's not. The women of America are making their voices heard. Reproductive rights is what it all comes down to. And the women are voting in numbers relative to men that are unbelievable. She's won this. And I said to him, she's going to take every one of the swing states plus Iowa. And he said, oh, but the numbers are so close. I said, I'm a political analyst. I'm telling you right now, the numbers are there. She's taking this election. And then I said to him, you realize, and he didn't tell me who he voted for, but of course I knew. And I said, you do realize you wasted your vote, right? And I didn't care. And I walked out with my bottle of champagne and happily walked home. Bye-bye.
Yeah, that's hilarious. How'd that work out for you? How did all that condescending, elite, smarmy sarcasm work out for you? You still feel good about that prediction? Political scientist? Oh, I know what was happening. That was great. That was so great. The honorable mention is this little fella who looks like he's about 12, maybe 13 years old. I have a daughter in 7th grade, and I can confirm this kid is totally accurate.
I swear, I'm done with the girls at our school. Every day they come into school wearing these tight leggings with Nike white socks up to here over the bottom of the leggings. Then they come in with their Stanley water bottle and they go, and then they wear a sweatshirt that doesn't have a hood. Sometimes it's big, sometimes it's small. Always has a print right here that says like Myrtle Beach or something. And then they walk in and they go, "What's up, girl?" I'm done. It's every day.
He's a little hero. He'll change his mind. Give him a couple years. He'll change his mind. All right, well, thanks for hanging out with me for 2024. I guess I get to do the terribly trite dad joke thing and say, I'll see you next year. Happy New Year's Eve. I'm James Parker. This has been The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3.